What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer. I love talking about movies and I love ranking movies, and that is what we're here to do today because we've made it to the end of September of 2025. And at the end of every month, right here on this channel, what I like to do is take a look back at all of the brand new releases that I had a chance to see and rank them from the worst to the best. But you guys know it's never just about my list, it's about your list as well. And so I would love to know if you had a chance to see several brand new releases in September of 2025 and how you would rank them from worst to best in that comment section down below. And before getting into the list, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have, whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos. I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into September of 2025, ranked from the worst to the best.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
Alright guys, so September of 2025, I only had a chance to see 5 brand new movies. I believe that's the least amount of brand new movies that I've seen all year in a calendar month, and it was just a busy month for me. Whether it was my work life, my personal life, I had a lot of family things on the weekends, and so I did get a chance to see 5 brand new movies, but again, that's the lowest amount of brand new movies I've been able to see all year. Not that September was a very stacked month anyway, but there were 3 movies that I wanted to see, and I just didn't have a chance to check out. The first one is A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. That movie starred Colin Farrell, and I wanted to check it out. It was like a rom-com, but I didn't have a chance to see it. Another one was the horror sports film called Him, and Him is a movie about an athlete who wants to risk everything in order to become the best, to become the greatest of all time, or the GOAT. And again, I just didn't have a chance to check it out. And the last one is another horror film called Strangers Chapter 2. I'm actually shocked that I missed this one myself because I'm such a big fan of the Strangers franchise, and while I didn't love Strangers Chapter 1, I was looking forward to Strangers Chapter 2 just to see if they did something different. But again, the end of this month has been really busy, so I will at least try to check these movies out down the line, and they will pop up more than likely in other ranked list videos down the road. But like I said, I did have a chance to see 5 brand new movies in September of 2025, and those are the ones we're going to focus on in this video. Now, if you want any more of my thoughts on the movies we're about to talk about beyond this video, well, I did 5 quick reaction YouTube shorts for all 5 of these movies right after seeing them. Those are just my quick reaction thoughts. And then I did full movie reviews for 3 of these 5 movies, and those are all on my YouTube channel as well. So again, if you want more of my thoughts, more of an in-depth on my thoughts of the movies we're about to talk about, well, all of that content is currently on my YouTube channel, and I'd love for you guys to check those videos out. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get into the list. And at number 5, the worst movie that I saw in September of 2025 is Highest to Lowest. Highest to Lowest is a film directed by Spike Lee, starring Denzel Washington as a music mogul who's about to make one of the biggest business decisions of his life. It's going to cost him a ton of money, but he's ready to make this business deal, but that is when his son gets kidnapped. And at first, it's an easy choice. He's going to take the money he was going to use for the business deal, and he's going to pay the ransom to get his son back. But then it becomes a little bit harder to make that choice when it turns out that his son wasn't the one that was kidnapped. It was actually his godson, and it's not even someone technically related to him, and he now has to make a choice. Does he go through with this business deal, or does he pay the ransom and get that kid back? And so I think it's a good premise for a film, but the execution of this movie was horrible. Getting into the things that made the execution of this movie so bad, first off, it's a 2-hour and 13-minute runtime. Definitely didn't need to be that long. There's several scenes in this movie that go on way too long, or characters circling back to conversations that they just didn't need to. Like, we already understood what was going on in those conversations. We didn't need to go back to those, and that just drags out that runtime, and that leads to a pacing issue, which is like these really intense, what are we going to do about this ransom, or how is Denzel going to deal with the kidnappers, to these really slow, drawn out scenes. And if you had a few of them to sort of build the atmosphere of this movie, I would understand that, but the fact that the movie keeps going back and forth, it makes it feel very jarring. It's like these these really fast-paced scenes and then these really slow scenes. So the pacing's off, and when you have the pacing off in a movie that's over 2 hours long, that's never a good combination. Another big issue with this movie is the dialogue, or the way the dialogue was given by some of the actors and actresses. While Denzel gives a great performance, he also has one of the most unintentionally funny moments of the entire year, in my opinion, and that's when both Denzel and the kidnapper, played by A$AP Rocky, instead of having a conversation with each other, decide to have a freestyle rap with each other back and forth. I'm not kidding. That's what they do to have a conversation about where the ransom money went. It's pretty funny, but it's also ridiculous. And then the final reason that I really didn't like this movie, why it's the worst movie of September in my opinion, and one of the worst movies of the entire year, is the loud orchestra music that's playing throughout almost the entire film. There's moments where it makes sense, like dramatic moments, somebody in a hospital bed, or oh my goodness, my son has been taken, or Denzel just trying to balance, okay, am I going to pay the ransom for somebody that's not my child? Like, there's moments where that music could work, but it's almost like they decided to just leave the music on for the rest of the film, because this loud orchestra music plays throughout the entire thing, and it's just so annoying. After a while, you realize, oh, this is going to go on for the whole movie, isn't it? And it really does. Unless there's an actual musical number, that orchestra music is playing for almost the entire thing. So for all of those reasons, highest to lowest is the worst movie I saw in September, and like I said, one of the worst movies that I've seen all year. Coming in at number 4, we have the Paul Thomas Anderson film One Battle After Another. This film stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, and Benicio del Toro. I think all three of them gave great performances throughout. I laughed quite a bit in the back half of this film, and there's a great moment of tension with a great car chase towards the end of this movie, one of the best car chases I've seen in a very long time. So those are the things I really liked about the movie, but the reason this movie's at number 4 and not in my top 3 for the month is because I think the story was way too drawn out. I think there was way too much going on. It started to get very convoluted, and at 2 hours and 45 minutes, you could have shaved a lot of that out and about 45 minutes to an hour off the runtime, and I would have had a better experience with this film personally. Now, I'm not saying longer movies don't work. I'm a fan of longer movies. If the movie needs to be a certain amount of time, I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is when you put too much into a film, you have too many ideas, and it starts to get convoluted, especially in the first hour of this movie. I considered walking out. Like, it was just so much going on while not really building to anywhere exciting. You just have these revolutionaries, as they're called, or basically domestic terrorists who are blowing up government buildings and then partying with each other. And this went on for almost a full hour. And during that hour, it's just like, come on, get somewhere. Where are we going? Now, eventually, the movie does pick up. The movie does show you where it's going to go. But again, there's so much time, especially in that first hour, that I feel like you could have cut out and we could have gotten to the same conclusion. So yeah, for me, the runtime did affect my overall enjoyment of this film, but just because there was so much going on in this movie that I didn't think needed to be there. There was a lot of stuff you could have cut out, and it could have been a better movie. And another thing that annoyed me is during any of the chaotic, frantic scenes during this movie, you would get somebody just pressing keys on a piano, like the higher pitched keys, and it didn't seem like there was any rhyme or rhythm to it. It was just ding, 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 ding. Like, it's just constant, and it really started to annoy me. And then when they switched off of that, it was just somebody who seemingly had one drum in front of them, and they were just hitting the drum constantly. But again, not really any rhyme or rhythm to it, and it was really annoying. That was your background music for a lot of the chaotic scenes throughout this film, and that started to annoy me as well. The movie also doesn't really have any redeemable characters, no one to really latch onto and hope they make it to the end of the film. The movie has a bunch of people in it that are really bad people. Yes, you might gravitate toward Leo's character, or you might gravitate toward Benicio del Toro's character, because both of them give great performances, but they're not good people. One of them is a bomb maker for a terrorist organization. The other one deals with human trafficking, so I don't really know how I'm supposed to root for either of them. And if you look at the rest of the characters in this movie, maybe you go with the teenage daughter because she hasn't done anything wrong, but by the end of this movie, she decides she's going to follow in her mother's footsteps. So I'm just like, who am I supposed to root for? Now, I understand I don't necessarily need to have a redeemable character, somebody to latch onto, but again, that just goes against this runtime, because for 2 hours and 45 minutes, I'm not liking anybody on the screen. I'm not wanting anybody to have a good ending because none of them seem to deserve it. Overall, this isn't a terrible movie. It's definitely not worst of the year because I think it is competently made. It does have great acting throughout, but for those negatives that I gave you, for me, it's a one and done. I'll probably never go back to one battle after another. We've made it to the top three, and at number three, we have the film The Conjuring: Last Rites. This was a film that I was very much so looking forward to. It was on my top 10 most anticipated movies list of 2025 because this was billed to us as the last time we would get to see Ed and Lorraine Warren on the big screen, played by both Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. They said after this movie, we're done with the characters, and the story of this movie actually focuses on the last case that the Warrens took, so it was supposed to be their final chapter. So again, I was very excited going into this movie, and I had a decent time with it. I thought it had some good scares throughout. Probably my biggest negative about this movie is that the big evil entity that the Warrens have to face is never really named. It's just this haunted mirror. The haunted mirror can cause all these things to happen in the house, but you never really get what's controlling that haunted mirror or what's beyond that haunted mirror, and that was disappointing. In fact, there's a moment in this movie where the mirror starts to stand up towards the end, and I was like, all right, now something's going to crawl out. We're going to find out what the big bad of this movie really is, and it just attacks them as the mirror. You don't even see hands. No, it just attacks them as the mirror, and that was really disappointing because, in my opinion, the Conjuring films within the Conjuring universe have always had great evil entities throughout the films. For instance, in the first movie, you had the witch. In the second movie, you had Valak the demon. In the third movie, you had people doing witchcraft, and so I loved that they kind of switched it up and made it humans in that one. My point is, the first three movies had such great evil entities going at the Warrens, and so I was hoping for something great out of this one, and it just was a haunted mirror with an unnamed demon, and that was disappointing. But on the positive side of this movie, I thought that Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga once again did a great job as Ed and Lorraine Warren, and there were some great jump scares in this movie, some very well-placed jump scares. I was worried they gave us too much in the previews, but there was so much that they hid, and I'm not a jump scare a minute kind of guy, but I thought the jump scares in this movie were very well-placed, and I thought they were very effective. Overall, I enjoyed The Conjuring: Last Rites. I was a little disappointed by this movie, but it's a movie I would go back to in the future, and it's a movie I'd put on the shelf back there to add to my Conjuring collection. At number two, we have the horror film Strange Harvest. Now, this is the only movie on this list that didn't actually come out in September of 25. This movie released in August to a very limited release, and I didn't have a chance to see it while it was in theaters. So when it finally went to streaming in September, I had a chance to sit down and watch it, and I'm so glad that I did because this movie is not only one of my favorite in September, but it's one of my favorite horror movies of the entire year. It is so damn good. The movie is filmed like a documentary about a serial killer that started off in the 90s, killing a bunch of people, leaving a weird symbol. The police couldn't really trace this person, figure out who this person was, and then they just sort of dropped off the map for 20 years. But then after 20 years, they resurfaced, started doing their killings again. He starts leaving these cryptic messages talking about needing to kill a certain amount of people, and as the movie progresses, you start to see a supernatural edge to this movie because the serial killer doesn't seem to be killing at random or killing for sport. It seems like he's doing a ritual of sorts to try and raise an ancient evil. And one of the things I loved about this movie the most is that a lot of it feels like found footage. Because you're watching a documentary, you're getting all of these interviews, secondhand information from detectives, from medical staff, from victims, from survivors, people that have been affected by this Mr. Shiny. And then when you see this Mr. Shiny, it's always through some sort of security camera or camera on someone's desk. You get the idea. It's like filmed like it's found footage, and I'm a sucker for found footage, so I loved that aspect of this movie along with the way they were telling you this story throughout the movie, because getting this secondhand information like you're watching a documentary just felt so fresh and it felt so unique. I also really loved the horrific imagery throughout this film, or as I've been saying while talking about this movie, the gory aftermath of this Mr. Shiny, because you don't really get to see him kill people, maybe a few people throughout the movie, but for the most part, you only come in after the fact because that's when you come in with the detectives because you're hearing all this secondhand information. And there's a setup at the beginning of this movie with this family at a table with all of their feet stuck in buckets that is one of the most horrific scenes I've seen in a film in a long time. And that scene immediately puts you on edge for what you're going to get throughout the rest of this film. There's another scene where a guy is completely strung up at a swing set. It's also a pretty nasty scene. So if you're there for the gore and the guts, this movie serves that up as well. And even with all those positives making this a great movie, I think the thing that puts this over the edge, making it one of my favorite horror movies this year, is the performances given to you by the people giving you their information about this serial killer. There's a moment in this movie where one of the detectives is trying to give his story and he starts to get emotional. And in that moment, you feel that emotion. He does such a great job portraying those emotions, making you feel like this is a real story. This is a real detective who dealt with a real serial killer. Again, it's all a work of fiction, but I swear to you, if you put this on in front of someone and you didn't tell them it was a movie or they didn't see the opening credits, like you would think this movie was a real documentary because of those performances. I think the performances all around, whether it was from Mr. Shiny himself or from the different people giving their interviews, I think all of them worked so damn well, and all of those pieces just made a great movie. And that'll lead to my number one pick for September of 2025, and at number one, we have the Stephen King adaptation, The Long Walk. This is a movie that worked for me on so many levels. I thought the emotional beats were great. I thought the performances were great. I thought the story itself was a really riveting story that kept me at the edge of my seat. And what is this movie about? Well, essentially, The Long Walk is set in a futuristic, dystopian police state America, where a guy named the Major, played by Mark Hamill, has put together this event known as the Long Walk. And once a year, one young man from every state in America is selected to go on this long walk. And during this long walk, if you stop, you die. But if you continue on and you're the last one standing, you'll get riches beyond your imagination and a wish of your choice. Now, what the movie does so well is that it gives you all of these boys and it gives you reasons for all of these boys to live. So those emotional beats of seeing these boys stop because their bodies physically stop them, or maybe their minds start to break and they don't want to be part of this long walk anymore. And oh my God, is it horrific when you see them get executed. So like I said, the story really worked for me. It kept me at the edge of my seat the entire time. I thought the emotional beats also kept me invested along the way, but the performances in this movie, specifically out of Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson, two of the young men that completely lean on each other throughout this entire event. I mean, sometimes they physically lean on each other and they fall asleep while walking and the other one steadies them to get them another 100 miles or so. It's a pretty crazy adventure of a film, but I think it's done so well, and those performances that they give really make you want those two specifically to make it to the end of the long walk, but in the back of your head, you know that only one of them can survive. Ultimately, I didn't know what to expect out of the long walk, but I ended up walking out thinking it was one of the best experiences I'd had with a film in 2025 so far. And guys, those are all the movies that I had a chance to see in September of 2025, ranked from worst to best. If you guys have a list, don't forget to throw it in the comment section down below. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, guys, we got to the end of my September 2025 movies ranked from worst to best. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sorry that I didn't have as many movies to talk about this time around. Again, September was just a very busy month for me, but I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to October. There's so many new movies coming out. I'm really looking forward to those. And I've got a Halloween movie review series starting on October 1st, so don't miss that as well. In the meantime, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my best and worst of 2025 right there, and I've got all of my 2025 movie reviews right there.